Hey, welcome. This is part three of our Tinkercad video with our Tinkerhome. Looking at and making sure that we're putting the holes in for our windows. So you have a certain number of windows that you're required to put into your home. And the best way to do that is by using your work plane and cutting out the holes with your shapes. So I've got my Tinkerhome here. We've already started on the fence. Now, obviously, with yours, your fence is going to go all the way around. These are just demonstration videos to kind of help you get and set up everything that you need. And so when I look at this video, what I've got to put a hole, I'm going to put a window right here, and I want to make my windows. Now, your windows don't have to be square windows. You can make your windows anything you want your windows to be. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put a work plane on here. And what the work plane does when I drag a work plane to the surface is this is going to help line up whatever shapes I bring in as to where they're going to go. So this is going to be helpful for both our chimney when we put a chimney in and our windows. So right now I'm going to be on the side here and I'm going to drag that. And what that does is that creates a work surface that we're going to work on that you notice is on the side of the house. And it's actually attached to the red of my home. So now what I got to do is figure out, okay, what kind of window do I want to put in? So I can look through my basic shapes. I can look through all kinds of shapes that are here. I can go through and see these different things. Like, let's just say, okay, I'm gonna have it's a Minnesota home, so I'm gonna put a Minnesota window in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the U.S. states and I'm gonna drag the U.S. states out onto the field. And one thing I do here, so I got my symbol here. I'm gonna find Minnesota. So Minnesota is going to be my window here. And what I need to do is if it's a solid shape, I want to turn it into a hole. And so what I'm going to do is change my shape into a hole. And what we want to do here is I'm going to make this, I got to make this a little thicker so it cuts out. So really when we're cutting out our window, doesn't necessarily matter how thick it is, but what we want to do is we also want to make sure that our window is, we're shrinking it down. So I'm going to change this to be 15 millimeters by 15 millimeters. And so now I've got a small window that's gonna be for my Minnesota window. Now what I can do here, so I've got my window, it's right along the side. If I click on the shape and wherever I click on the shape, I can see and I can pick up this window by moving it up and down. I can turn and move this window back and forth by sinking the window in, right? If I want to grab my window and, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to sink my window in. Let's click off of it, grab my window, and I can push the window back in. So there is my window. So my window is actually going into my shape. So again, what I want to do for this one when I'm ready and I've got my window, I'm going to drag, oh, I don't want to drag that out of the way. I'm going to keep that where it is. What I want to do is drag my work plane back to my main surface. Then I can drag a box around the shapes that I want to select. So I'm just selecting my window and my house. I'm going to group those two shapes together, and I have cut out a Minnesota shaped window in my house that I can see through. So I've got one of my windows. Now, your windows don't all have to be the same. Your windows can be anything creative for your house to make it. And so you can make your windows out of whatever it is that you would like to do for the windows. So the last piece that we're going to do for this one is talk about how do we put our chimney on there. Same thing. My house is right here. I'm going to drag a work plane onto my surface. I'm going to put the chimney up on this part of the house. I'm going to go back to my shapes, go for the basic shapes. I'm going to make this a square chimney perhaps. I'm going to put that in here. I'm going to size my chimney down so that it looks like it's the right size chimney. I'm going to sink the chimney into the house so I know that it's in there. I can have it stick out however far that it is that I want it to stick out. Now, there's a couple things that we've got here. So now what I can do is I'm going to rotate this. I'm going to take this work plane off. You notice my chimney's kind of lopsided there. right? Because it just attached it into my work plane on this surface. What I can do is, as you rotate around, you see these arrows that are so that you can rotate shapes. So what I'm going to do is rotate around here, grab my arrow, and I'm going to tilt that chimney so it's straight up and down, right? And I get the chimney looking like it wants to be. I can make the chimney a different color. Now, we are not worried about the inside of our home. This is strictly an exterior aesthetic piece, right? If I go into my home and I am looking at the home and I turn my view up, you'll notice that if I look underneath, I might see the chimney poking through if I go further down here. We're not worried about the inside of our home. So don't worry about what does the inside of your home look like. We are strictly looking at what does the outside or exterior of our home look like for our view. Again, if I want my chimney, maybe I got a red house with a green roof. I want the chimney to be purple. I can make myself a purple chimney. So I've got a purple chimney for my house. And that concludes this video for your Tinker Home.